We're ranking the Doctor Who Precons from worst to best.
I'm Mia, and I like collecting portable batteries.
I'm Beezy, and I stopped watching after the 10th Doctor. We're the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by Dragon Shield. They got the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
They are amazing. If you go to the link in the description, EU or US, you can buy sleeves straight from the source and support the channel at the same time.
We're also sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you use the code
NERDS
at checkout, you can, hi Miso, save 5% on your entire order, 5% of your real hard-earned dollars.
Yeah, and we know Miso likes money. He plays Big Green Stompy. He's gotta save money where he can. And we also sponsored by Moxfield. There's going to be an ad somewhere in this video. You're not going to be able to guess where it is. Don't pretend you can. But if you want to try in the comments, sure. And happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
We're also sponsored by IntoTheAM, the best place to get really vibrant, awesome t-shirts. I'm wearing one right now. I'm pretty sure it's called Trinome Sequence. What about yours?
The Trinome Sequence. I am wearing Astro Punch. A little bit less fancy, but pretty good names on these shirts. These are also the official names. You can go to their website, we'll link it, and you can buy things like Astro Pump, which I would love to make up a name for this shirt, but it's actually called Astro Pump.
There's also Tree Book Waterfall.
Very vibrant Tree Book Waterfall. Actually, for real though, IntoTheAM sent us some shirts, and then pretty much nonstop, whenever we go out in public, we get complimented on them.
Oh, absolutely. We've been stopped mid-street to be like, hey, where'd you get those shirts? It's super cool.
A lady, taking out her garbage stopped Mia walking down the street because she thought her shirt was so cool. It was weird, but that's how cool these shirts are. You can go buy these shirts on the website, and when you use our link in the description, you're actually going to save 10%.
That is a lot of percent. IntoTheAM.com/nitpickingnerds, link in the description below.
So there are 4 new Doctor Who Precons. We got Paradox Power, Masters of Evil, Blast from the Past, and Timey Wimey. And we're going to go over which ones are the worst and all the way up to which one is the best.
We're going to be covering lots of things in here, including the Commander and the Companions, the game plan, best reprints, new cards, budget adds, non-budget adds, and cuts from the original deck list.
I will say, I'm just thinking this now, this was their chance to bring back Companion, and I'm so glad they didn't do it.
Yeah, that just really screwed up the entire format, right?
Yeah, and some things to note about these particular Precons is there's not a lot of reprints. It's mostly new cards. There are a lot of original cards in all these Precons, so don't expect the reprints to be that great. And the Precons themselves range in price. We'll get to them, but individually, but together they're about $200 to $225 total we're seeing right now.
I mean, that's better than the Commander Masters prices in general, but as a total, not bad.
We're going to start with the worst Precon here. It's Masters of Evil. It's about $58 if you want to buy it today. The commander is Davros, Dalek Creator. He is 1 blue, black, red for a 3/4 menace. At the beginning of your end step, create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn. Then, each opponent who lost 3 or more life this turn faces a villainous choice. You draw a card, or that player discards a card. I actually think this card's pretty sweet. That villainous choice is pretty nasty. I'll probably let you draw a card. Maybe. I don't know. They're both really bad.
Yeah, I really like the Commander here and maybe a couple of the original cards, but the deck itself, I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, the game plan of the deck, as far as I can tell, you're trying to create an army of artifact creatures, Daleks, Cybermen, pretty cool, and force opponents to lose life because you want to trigger Davros and face villainous choices. There's some cards that care about that. Also, Goad is here. There's 6 or 7 or 8, 10 cards that care about Goad. It does not feel cohesive. I think this is probably the worst one to play out of the box.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you do have card advantage in the command zone, but the fact that the two strategies kind of go against one another is kind of weird. I'm not a big fan.
But we still got reprints. Let's get to the best ones. Wound Reflection is $4. Makes everybody lose life equal to the life they lost. Kind of a perfect fit for this deck.
Lightning Greaves, $3. You're going to give your commander Haste and Shroud because you want to face as many villainous choices as possible.
I want to keep those villainous choices flowing. Snuff Out, $5. This is a super good reprint. The art is so weird. I kind of like it because it looks like they're trying to help you. And they are trying to help you, but they said dying is a side effect of that. So I like that one. Fiery Islet, $3. They're bringing back, for these Precons, it's notable, they're bringing back the Canopy lands. Pretty much all of them that they could put in. And also the slow duels from Midnight Hunt, Crimson Vow.
Yeah, I think these are really, really good reprints, especially if you're looking into getting things for Pioneer and that sort of thing, because, those shine there at best.
Yeah, Stormcarved Coast, $4, and it's the blue-red slow land. I don't know what they're called. They're Midnight Hunt duels. It's the blue-red one. I mean, it's from Crimson Vow, but you know what we mean. We mentioned these precons all have a million new cards. What are some of the best new ones in this precon?
One of the best new ones is Cyber Conversion. Blue for an instant that says, turn target creature face down. It's a 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. I really like this because it can trap someone's commander on the field, like Kenny's transformation or something like that.
Yeah, that's really annoying. I had already thought of it as like, oh, it's similar to like Reality Shift, but now that you mentioned screwing commanders and sticking them on the board, I like this a lot more. I'm pretty excited about Cyber Conversion now.
Blue is not too bad to keep up too, and you can bluff saying that you have a counter spell or something.
Yeah.
So I like this a lot.
And the Cybermen, they have the thing where mostly what they say is they go like, Doop. So you can say that when you cast the spell. Ashad, the Lone Cyberman, 1 blue-black-red for a 3/3. The first non-legendary artifact spell you cast each turn has Casualty 2, which means you can sack a 2-power creature to copy it. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Ashad. That part is whatever, but you can cast Ashad, then cast another non-legendary artifact spell because he's legendary, and then have Casualty 2.
I'm pretty happy that they're bringing Casualty back. I really liked it in Streets of New Capenna, and I think it was underutilized in the sets going forward, so it's good to see it here.
That's a pretty sweet one. Apparently all the good cards are Cybermen cards because Missy is next. 3 blue-black-red for a 4/5. Whenever another non-artifact creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control, face down and tapped as a 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent faces a villainous choice. Each artifact creature you control deals 1 damage to them, or you draw a card and chaos ensues. It's going to be kind of hard grading the Chaos Ensues cards because that's only relevant if you're playing Plane Chase, which these precons do come with 10 planes each, so keep that in mind. That's probably where some of the, like, if the prices seem a little high, you're getting 10 planes also, so you can play these Plane Chase right out of the box. But we're going to mostly ignore Chaos Ensues and just know that that's relevant if you play Plane Chase.
Yeah, if you're playing Plane Chase, I would prefer this card maybe to the other commander, but if you're not playing Planes Chase, definitely the face commander is a bit better.
But yeah, this card is like a Kalidas kind of, where like the creature's inaccessible to them because you're getting it as a 2/2 face down, and there's probably some shenanigans you can do with turning things face up, but Missy seems really cool.
Yeah.
Worth the mana. For the budget ads, I was really excited about this first one. I thought of it immediately. It's Loyal Subordinate. If you control your commander during combat, each opponent loses 3 life. That's the exact condition that Davros wants to meet the villainous choice. It's so good.
I love the Loyal cycle. It's really fun, and this one just pairs perfectly with this deck.
And it just curves right in, and you play Loyal Subordinate on 3 and Davros on 4, and then everybody's screwed. Cut to Ribbons is another way to make people lose life. You can hit a creature on the front side, and then if you generate mana or you just want to trigger the villainous choice, yeah, it's an option for you in the graveyard.
Cranial Plating is a great one because you can equip it at instant speed, and the creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact, and you're going to have a ton of artifacts.
Yeah, so if you're attacking with like multiple Daleks or Cybermen, they just don't block one of them because they can't. There's too many. And then you go, whoop, Cranial Plating on and take 12. Brutaclad is a cool one because you can make more Cybermens and you can make more Daleks and just kind of go wide. And there's some like creature type matters stuff that Brutaclad might actually pay off.
And if you're busy, you can even use it to make all of your tokens Staff of Nins.
That's what I would like to do the most. Sig River Cutthroat is perfect for this deck because he just wants opponents to lose 3 life, and then you can draw cards. That's like exactly what you're already trying to do.
I have him in a budget deck, and I'm so happy that he is a budget ad. He's really good. It's really easy to trigger.
He triggers when other people attack other people. It's perfect.
But if you have a little bit more money to throw around, here's some non-budget ads. One of them is Bolas' Citadel. You can get people to lose life triggering your commander by sacking 10 permanents. It's also good card advantage because you can just keep casting spells off the top if you have enough life.
Yeah, it's hard because this deck is really confused. This deck does not have like 1 or even necessarily 2 strategies it's going for. But Artifacts is kind of the tie-in, so I think Citadel is like one of the best artifacts you can play. It helps you cast spells, get advantage out of these weirdo legends and weirdo artifact cards, and then you can actually sacrifice a bunch of Cybermen and then maybe win the game. Tezzeret's very similar, although Tezzeret's awesome because you can ping everyone equal to your artifact count, and that's his +1, and his static gives stuff affinity, so it's going to be, you just start like throwing all your stuff down.
As we mentioned in a Most Worth Buying video a little bit ago, Time Civ is great. You're going to sack a bunch of artifacts, take extra turns, and you're going to be generating so many artifacts, you can just keep chaining those.
And we learned that it's Time Civ and not Time Sieve. Mycosynth Golem's probably one of the most expensive cards you can even buy for this deck, but if you're packing it full of artifact creatures to meet the artifact synergy side of it, this is perfect. It gives your artifact creatures affinity for artifacts.
And Catholda Forge Master is really, really great. You're going to sack 3 artifacts that you don't care about, like some tokens, and you're going to tutor an artifact onto the battlefield.
Yeah, now you're just getting your best stuff all the time. There's some pretty cool cards in this deck. But since it's the worst deck, there are also some horrible cards in this deck, or at least cards that don't work at all. Clockwork Droid is just like a evasive 3-power creature and it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, I am not a fan. It's an artifact, but I think you can just replace it with a lot better. Renegade Silent is another one. It phases out and goads other people's creatures, but I think these are two different strategies than what you're going for. If you want goad, there's better cards. If you want phasing out, there's better cards.
And it's like expensive. It's like 4 mana, and the Master of Mesmerist, not super synergistic with the artifact theme. Also, it goads and wants skull creatures. It makes Skulk, but we don't have any other ways to do that. It's really weird. And you want to like grow his power too. We don't have time for that. We can't do that.
Yeah, the Skull creature that you target has to be less than his power, and he starts at 3, so it's a little bit rough. You know, what do you want to do? Goad someone's mana dork? Like,
I doesn't really help you. Time Reaper. This is by far the most confusing card, and please let me know. I think now that I'm thinking about it a little bit, it's probably like a meta call because it's probably meant to be played because you're supposed to play these 4 precons together. It's probably meant for to disrupt suspend cards and literally nothing else. So just never play this card in any deck ever outside of this exact deck playing against the other 3 precons exactly. If you're in a different environment, please cut this.
I really want them to have some things where it's like, oh yeah, you can get stuff back from exile, but not like this. 3 life is not a good trade to put someone else's exile thing on the bottom of their library. Like if you farewell it or something like.
Yeah, it's only worth a card if you stop a suspend, and there's no guarantee that you're doing that. Don't Blink has got to be one of the funniest cards because it tells your opponents how to play against it. It stops blinking, so you should not blink if they have Don't Blink. But it's really specific, and we don't need this at all.
Overall, I don't think the deck plan is that synergistic, but there's a lot of cool pieces in it, so if you want any of those pieces and a lot of them, you can just scrap it for parts and just kind of put those where you see fit.
Yeah. I think the next deck is going to be really cool because it's Moxfield.com. It's actually a website. Psych, not a deck at all, but you still should be using it. If you want to build one of these decks or take one of these decks, you can start with the precon. You can copy paste import feature, super easy. Then you've got Masters of Evil, and you can say I don't want to play Missy. I don't want to play all 7 versions of the Master. You can cut them all. Add whatever cards you think like Grave Titan, you think that's pretty cool, you can add that card. Moxfield is just super easy. It makes it all too easy.
I really love Moxfield because I was able to put some of these cards into decks, into the considering before it was even out, and it told me that it wasn't out. So it really keeps track of that, and it's really nice to have.
Yes, but on to the number 3 deck for real. This is Blast from the Past. It's $50. The commander is the 4th Doctor. There are all 15 Doctors in these precons, even though we only go up to 13 because they don't try to make sense. They know there can't be. 2 blue-green for 3/3. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Once each turn, you may play a historic land or cast a historic spell from the top of your library. When you do, create a food token, and he's a 4/4. Also has a companion, Sarah Jane Smith. 1 and a white for a 2/1. Whenever you cast a historic spell, investigate, but it only triggers once each turn, and she has Doctor's Companion, which means you can pair any Doctor with any Doctor's Companion. That makes a lot of sense.
You want to make this entire deck full of historic spells, and that includes legendary creatures, so it's just chock full of that, and you're just going to get a lot of value from casting them off the top.
This deck has a consistent game plan. Pretty much every spell in this entire deck, aside from instants and sorceries, is historic. And all the creatures are legendary, and a lot of them say, whenever you do this, and a lot of them say, like, make a food or a clue or a treasure or something. And so there's a lot of that going on. I think what this deck is lacking is, like, a way to actually win the game.
There are a few great reprints in here, though. Heroic Intervention at $5 right now gives permanents you control hexproof and indestructible for 1 and a green. I think that was really great reprint in Commander Masters, and I'm happy to see it here, too.
I hope they just keep reprinting this card until it's $1 so that everybody can play it. 3 visits, $4. It searches for a forest, puts it into play. It's one of the best 2-mana ramp options in the whole format, and it has not seen a reprint in a really long time, so if it dips any lower than 4, you should probably scoop some up.
Horizon Campy is a great land for $4. You can pay 1 life to add green or white, or you can pay 1, tap it, and sack it to draw a card.
Nice little option here. I like playing the Horizon lands, or the Canopy lands, whatever you want to call them. In Commander, the fact that they deal damage to you isn't that big of a deal. And Dreamroot Cascade, it's another one of those Midnight Hunt Crimson Vow lands, and that I play all the time. Like, those are really good duels. And Deserted Beach is the same way.
There are a bunch of new cool cards in this deck, though. One of them being Bessie, the Doctor's Roadster. 2 mana for a 3/4 vehicle with haste. When it attacks, another target legendary creature can't be blocked this turn, and it has crew too. I think that's really good stats and a pretty easy crew.
It's pretty easy to crew, and then you basically just make your commander, most likely, I'm assuming that's what you're using this for, unblockable. And if your commander's one of those like 7-power big boys, you can really threaten people. And this card is it looks like such a meme.
This commander damage is going to get very, very dangerous.
It's a roadster. You're going to get hit by Bessie. Alistair, the Brigadier, 1 blue, white, green for a 3/3. Whenever you cast a historic spell, create a 1/1 white soldier token. Whenever he attacks, you can pay 8 mana. If you do, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of historic permanents you control. That number is going to be huge. We're going to be making dumb little tokens if you want to have sagas, legendary creatures, this entire deck. This is one of the only ways I could see in the deck to win the game, but outside of this deck, it's going to create huge swings for like hundreds.
8 mana seems like a lot, but you are playing green, so it might not be too bad to ramp into it.
Yeah. Oh, and also, another way to win the game in this deck, pretty much the only other way, is the most hyped card in maybe all of these precons. It's Displaced Dinosaurs. 5 green for a 7/7. As a historic permanent enters the battlefield under your control, it becomes a 7/7 dinosaur creature in addition to its other types. Cast your commander, it's a 7/7 with all the text. Make a food token, it's a 7/7 that you can sack, not right away because it's a creature, for 3 life.
I think this is a really cool card. It's actually putting a lot of power on the board. 7 mana isn't too bad in green, and I think the only real downside is the fact that all of your artifacts are susceptible now to creature type board wipes.
Yeah, the card looks silly. It looks pretty strong, and it's like hilarious. How about budget ads? Samwise Gamgee wants to join the Universes Beyond deck, and he's a green-white 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food token, and you can sacrifice 3 foods. I always forget this line is even here. Return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand. This is like real card advantage. This card is really good, not only because it infinite combos with like Cauldron Familiar, but it's just like on its base. You play 3 creatures, you get an Eternal Witness, or you just start racking up life gain artifact entering triggers.
I mean, foods in general, it's so easy to make tokens, whether they be food or treasure or clues nowadays, that getting the 3 foods to get basically any card minus lands to your hand from the graveyard, that's amazing.
Yeah, and if you start reading the cards in this precon, you'll see the word historic like 5,000 times. Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle, cast historic spells, get back creatures. It's all going to work together. This is like probably the perfect legend for this deck.
I've had such good luck with Teshar. I have him in my Alela deck, and it's really easy just to bounce things back and forth from the graveyard, like things that you sack and it goes. It's just really nice. Another great budget ad is Lona's Cryptozoologist for a blue-green 1/2 creature. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. If you tap her and sack X clues, target opponent reveals the top X cards of the library. You can put a non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from them onto the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. That was a novel.
Too many words, but it makes a lot of clues similar to Sam, and it lets you use clues similar to Sam to get card advantage, so both of those cards should 100% be in your deck. Bronze Guardian gives all your artifacts Ward 2, and it's ridiculously huge. It's going to be like a 10/5 double strike.
Thought Monitor is really great too. 6 blue for 2/2, but it has affinity for artifacts. It flies, and when it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. You could probably get it for blue, or maybe 1 in a blue.
The goal is blue, because nothing feels better than casting a 1-mana Muldrifter. But we also get to add some cards into this deck that are not budget-friendly, like Inventor's Fair. It searches for an artifact. It's a land. It's also a legendary land, so the 4th Doctor can play it even if it's on top of your deck.
Academy Manufacturer is really great too. You're going to be creating one of those types of tokens, and instead you're going to get one of each of a clue, food, or treasure.
Yeah, those are pretty sweet. I think this deck definitely makes a little bit of those, and you can lean into that with Academy Manufacturer. PSA, it is Manufacturer, not Manufacturer. I don't make the rules. Also, Relic of Legends taps untapped legendaries to add mana, and it adds mana. This is just going to be like a huge mana production.
Flowering of the White Tree is really nice too. It's one of the new ones from Lord of the Rings, and it's going to give legendary creatures Ward 1 and extra stats, which is really, really nice in this.
Yeah, I don't really like the +1/+1 anthems, but when it gets to be adding 2 power, then I'm interested. And this is only 2 mana, so it's got a lot of upside, especially with the Ward 1 over like Glorious Anthem, which I would never play. Reki, History of Kamigawa, has got to be great in this deck, because whenever you cast a legendary spell, you draw a card.
But even though there's a lot of great cards, there's a bunch of cards that we'd like to cut too. One of them is Time Lord Regeneration. It's going to care about how many Time Lords you have in your deck, and we just don't really care about that.
Yeah, it's like polymorphing Time Lords, and most Commander decks that are ever built are not going to need 87 Doctors in them. I think the first thing you're going to do probably with this deck is cut some of the Doctors that don't work, that are saying, hey, play this other deck, and you're like, I don't want to. Leela, Civiteam Warrior, wants opponents to draw extra cards and then gets bigger, kind of like an Orcish Bowmasters that isn't very good.
I'm not a big fan of these just putting counters on one creature. It's just usually really susceptible to removal, or it's just not that good in the long run.
Yeah, the 5th Doctor we're also cutting. He he's good, but I think he wants you to play like really hard into the untapped stuff, and he wants to be your commander. I think most of the doctors want to be your commander. Some of them work together.
The second doctor just is group hug. It's just not that good in this deck or in general. I know BZ hates group hug.
I am not about it. I will not put a random group hug in my deck. Group hug card in my deck with no other support for it. And then Banish to Another Universe, it's just an O-ring. It looks fancy because it's got affinity and you can cast it for white mana, but this deck already has swords and path in it, so I don't really want an Oblivion Ring.
Just put a different removal spell.
Time for the number 2 Precon, and that's Timey Wimey. This is about $80, but there is a lot more value in this deck. Let's go to the Commanders. The 10th Doctor, everybody's favorite pretty much. It's 3 red, blue for a 3/5 with Alonzi. Whenever you attack, exile cards from top of your library until you exile a non-land card, put 3 time counters on it. If it doesn't have Suspend, it gains Suspend, and also has Timey Wimey. 7 mana, time travel 3 times, activate only as a sorcery. Time travel is you can add or remove time counters from all your stuff or suspended stuff. And then he partners with Rose Tyler, well, she's a companion, and she gets +1/+1 for each time counter on her, and she has Bad Wolf. Whenever she attacks, put a time counter on it for each suspended card you own and each other permanent you control with a time counter on it. Was that enough words?
That was a lot of words. But basically, you're going to cheat the mana costs of your spells, you're going to suspend them for really cheap, and then you're just going to take time counters off with the Doctor's ability and just cast them all for really good value. I really like this, honestly. I've wanted Suspend to come back for a while.
Yeah, this is like really, Suspend is like really back. And I know I literally said I stopped watching after the 10th Doctor, but it's just not even true. I watched up to the end of the 11th.
BZ just lies to the camera.
The 10th was the best, okay? Everybody knows that David Tennant knows what he's doing.
There's some really great reprints in here. One being my favorite, Farewell, at $7. You're going to exile creatures, artifacts, enchantments, or graveyards, or all of the above.
Yeah, it's also got the best flavor text ever and the best art. We also have Wedding Ring, a card I completely forgot about. It was one of the cards that like everybody was hyped about, and Nitpicking nerds were just like, and I don't really know if it's made that much of a wave, but it is $5, so if you want a Wedding Ring, never been a better chance to pick it up.
It's down from 20, I'm pretty sure, which is a really good deal.
You know what? There's another card that has that exact same trajectory, I guarantee it, that we'll get to from this Precon. Lightning Greaves, $3. Not the card, though. But Lightning Greaves is just going to give a creature haste, Shroud. It's perfect. It's like a staple.
Sunbaked Canyon, $6. Red or white, like the version of the Horizon land that BZ was talking about earlier. It's great. You can draw a card from it later.
And Stormcarved Coast, another one of those Crimson Vow duels. Whatever you want to call them. Please stop making me say the duels without knowing what they're called. But oh boy, Mia, how about some of the best new cards from this deck? And I'm going to put best in quotes for this first one.
The best new cards, or one of them, is Everybody Lives, which is the one that BZ was alluding to that you should just sell, and it is very expensive right now. It's 1 and a white for an instant. All creatures gain hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. Players gain hexproof until end of turn. Players can't lose life this turn, and players can't lose the game or win the game this turn.
Yeah, it shuts off Thoracle, and I feel like everybody has been telling me, it shuts off Thoracle. I'm like, yeah? We playing CDH? No?
I've seen this on Twitter floating around, and it's been people on it imprint on Isochron Scepter, and I just think that if you're going to be playing this card, you should swap it out for something that actually helps accelerate your game plan instead.
This decelerates everyone's game plan. I don't really like this. I don't think this card is that good. I do think it is worth $20 right now, so please sell it because it has the exact same trajectory as Wedding Ring, Root Path Purifier, Disciple of Kalis Nin, and you don't even know what any of those 3 cards do because they all started at $20 and everyone was like, no thanks.
Social media hyped them up, and there was like exactly one card that it goes against, and you're like, that card's really powerful. It's good. This is going to be a meta call, and then it just...
Yeah, meta calls never really do a lot. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, though. Get to the best new cards. It is 4 red-white for a 7/7 Vigilance, Trample. Other dinosaurs you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance and Trample. And suspend 4 for 3 white-reds. That's kind of expensive, but whenever a time counter is removed from Dinosaurs on a Spaceship while it's exiled, you get a 2/2 red and white dinosaur creature token with flying and haste. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, easily one of the lamest episodes.
Is it? But I think that this card is really cool, considering you can add time counters with the Doctor's ability. So you can just keep this in suspend for as long as you want, and then you're just going to keep creating 2/2 dinosaurs with flying and haste.
Yeah, you get like both options. Like you said, you can add counters and just take a gradual flow of tutus, or you can remove all the counters at once and just get 5 tutus, then cast these for free because the suspend's over, and then just attack with everything.
They also give the Anthem, which is really awesome. And the next one being Flesh Duplicate. I really like copy effects. Blue for a 0/0. You can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it has Vanishing 3 if it doesn't have Vanishing. But as we said earlier, you can add time counters to it. So if you can keep proccing the Doctor's time effect, I guess. Time travel. Then you can just keep this on the field, provided it doesn't get removed.
But for decks in general, this just kind of has Phantasmal Image vibes. I don't know which one is easier to kill. This almost seems better, but it is a little harder to cast. It's just going to give you the ETB or the Dice Trigger or whatever you want, like right away for 2 mana. And then it's a little fragile, but we usually don't care. 3 turns is a long time. So this deck was pretty tricky to add cards to because there's not a lot of Suspend support. But for what we could find, Inevitable Betrayal's got to be great because it's got Suspend and then it briberies somebody. It only suspends for a couple, so you just have to time travel once or twice, and then you just get a bribery for like 2 or 3 mana.
Yeah, it has to spend 3, so if you can proc it immediately, you can just get that bribery.
If you activate 10th Doctor?
Yeah. Joyer of the Gitu is another great one. It gives cards suspend and puts 4 time counters on it, so you only need 1 turn and 1 activation of the 10th Doctor, and that's pretty easy to remove.
Oh yeah, you can like play Joyra, pump all your mana, throw your hand down like 6 cards, then untap, remove 1 so they all have 3, then time travel 3 times and just cast your whole hand for free. That's pretty sweet. Rift Elemental, really weird card. It can remove time counters for 1 in a red. One of the only ways to repeatedly do it. So this garbage common, we're going to play it, and it's going to save us mana.
Inspiring Refrain is another one. You draw 2 cards, and it suspends itself again, and you're going to keep getting that effect.
Yeah, we'll see another inspiring card that is clearly broken with this commander. It's in the non-budget ad section. That's going to start with Ancestral Vision. Suspends for 4 and for a blue mana, but you draw 3 cards when it goes off, so a lot of the time this is going to be Ancestral Recall.
That's not bad. You don't have to wait that long, provided you can proc the 10th Doctor's effect. Rousing Refrain is another great one. You gain mana for each card in an opponent's hand for 1 red mana each. It suspends itself again, too, and it only has 3 suspend counters, so provided you can use that mana to pay into the Doctor's kind of effect, if they have more than 7 counters on it, you can just keep doing this infinitely.
Yeah, if they have 8 cards in hand, you get infinite time travels and you get infinite red mana, which seems pretty good. That's kind of the thing everyone's talking about with the 10th Doctor. David Tennant, he's coming here with infinite combos. They were like, oh, the Doctors would have group hug. He's like, nah, time travel, baby.
I mean, he's the one everyone likes most, so.
They probably did that on purpose. Shatter's Ignition is a potential win con if you get Rose Tyler big enough with all of your time counters moving around and she attacks 2 or 3 times. All of a sudden she's a 20/20 and you just go poof, blow everything up.
We, as the nerds, love Passionate Archaeologist. You're going to be casting things from exile with Suspend anyways, and you're going to deal damage to opponents for casting those suspended spells.
Yeah, I also like Training Grounds. You can reduce David Tennant's ability so that now you're only paying 5 mana to time travel 3 times, and if you've got multiple suspend cards in the oven, you can really just speed it up.
There's a few cards in here, though, that just don't synergize well.
Usual.
One of them is Jenny Generated Anomaly. It's expensive CMC for a creature that has double strike, and it's a little explorer, but it can only explore on combat damage. It doesn't even have trample, so it's really hard to get that.
It has nothing to do with this deck at all. Go build a Jenny deck, and that deck will be cool, but it's just not for a suspend deck. It's not like it's bad, it's just not for this. Crack in Time, it's 4 mana, and you're exiling a creature, and then like... I really don't love these Oblivion Ring type of effects.
Yeah, I don't like it because it has 3 time counters on it. I mean, I guess you can add time counters too, but if you're removing time counters from stuff, is that a blanket effect, or can you choose per permanent?
That's what it wants you to do. I still don't even think it's that great. I haven't been a fan of like Grasp of Fate or even Out of Time, which is in the deck, but we didn't cut it. I don't want to temporarily exile my opponent's stuff. As Foretold seems great in this deck, but then I'm like a little confused by it because it's like, oh, it gets time counters, and then you can cast cards from your hand for free. But I'm not casting cards from my hand. I'm casting cards from Suspend. So it takes forever to get going, and then by the time you get going, you don't want to suspend anymore, and then I'm not time travel. I don't know. I thought I'd just cut it. It seems like kind of a trap.
I mean, it's a good reprint, but I don't think it works well in this deck. And I don't think Fractured Identity works well in this deck either. You're going to kill something for 5 mana and then just give it to everyone else.
I can't think of too many threats that this actually removes or actually solves the problem of. It's a good 1v1 card, obviously, but we're playing 4 players. I don't want to make more of the thing, even if I get one. And then the moment, it's like a ton of setup, and it's a wipe the board, but it costs mana, and you're like, it is so finicky and so slow that I am not interested.
I hate it too, because if someone plays the farewell or something and they just wipe artifacts, it's just gone, and all your stuff is, you paid a lot of mana into nothing.
Like, oh no, but in 3 turns I was going to do something. But now that brings us to the number 1 precon of this batch, and that is Paradox Power. $50 precon. The commander, first one, is the 13th Doctor. That is the newest. Well, former newest. It's 1 green-blue. It has Paradox whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And as Team TARDIS, at the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it. She has a companion. It's Yasmin Khan. 3 and a red for a 3/3. Tap, exile the top card of your library. Until your next end step, you may play it. And she obviously has Doctor's Companion.
This is going to be so you can cast a lot of spells from places other than your hand to trigger the Paradox ability. And I'm really excited for this because it has a lot of new cards that Cascade decks can explore.
Yeah, and then, like, even just together, the 13th Doctor is going to untap Yasmin, who's going to just exile more cards, which then puts more counters on your creatures. This is like a very... It's not a Cascade deck, but it has Cascade deck vibes. So if you picture like a Maelstrom Wanderer deck, there's a lot of similarities here.
It's really synergistic too, which I'm a real big fan of.
It flows together. It's got what Blast from the Past has, where it's really cohesive and a lot of the cards want the same thing. But then it also looks like it has ways to close the game.
Moving on to the reprints, though, one of them being Carpet of Flowers, a green enchantment at the beginning of each of your main phases. If you haven't added mana with this ability this turn, you can add X of any one color, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. You know one opponent's going to have at least a few islands, and you're just going to get a bunch of mana.
Oh, and okay, this is a $7 card, so it's a great reprint. I'm happy to see it. Really surprised, honestly. I haven't watched the 13th Doctor, so maybe there's some like flavor tie-in, but this just triggered memories of me. This is one of the most misread cards on the planet. Because people think that you get the mana for both main phases. The Oracle update, it is not what the card says. The Oracle update says if you haven't added mana with this ability this turn. So this is going to get the correct version of the card out there more, which is actually pretty sweet.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, if we do part 2 of most misread cards, easily Carpet of Flowers is on there. Stormcarved Coast, another land, $3. I don't need to keep saying these lands. Fiery Isle at $3. Dreamroot Cascade, also $4. And then the reprints kind of drop off there. The next best one is like Beast Within at $1.
I mean, I really think that though the deck is synergistic and there's a lot of cool new cards, the reprints got a little lazy here.
This is the worst deck for reprints, but again, there weren't even that many chances to reprint cards. The mana bases of all these decks do really well. Like, there's 9, 10, 12 basics in each deck, which is a lot better from the 25 we used to get, so I cannot complain too much. The best new cards, Into the Time Vortex. It is 4 and a red, it is a sorcery, and it has 2 words on it. Cascade and Rebound. It's like Throes of Chaos, but I think better. It gives you like a little bit more breadth of cards it can hit from Cascade, and then it does it twice, and you don't have to pay for the second one, thank God.
I really like Rebound cards, as you might know, because I've talked about like Fevered Suspicion and stuff, but I think this is a really cool one for Cascade.
I love that this card has no words. Like, the sorcery does nothing. It just says, here's 2 triggers.
See, you think it doesn't have a lot of words because we just say Cascade Rebound, but it has the explanation text for all of it, so this takes up the entire text box.
Yeah. I just like that the sorcery itself does not do anything. It's like, oh, I hope I get something else. And then Riversong's Diary. It's got Imprint. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell from their hand, exile it instead of putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more cards exiled with this thing, you choose one of them at random and you can cast it without paying its mana cost. Oh my God. So many words, but it is a cool like randomness feature, and it kind of like graveyard hates instant sorceries, and it lets you just generate value over time.
I think that this can really get some value, especially if you're playing really cheap sorceries or really good ones like Swords or Path or something.
Yeah, I like this one a lot, and that was like a big thing in that little saga, so I'm glad it's a cool card. And then bigger on the inside, I'm excited about this. You enchant a land or an artifact, and it taps for 2, and then the next spell they cast has Cascade. I'm so into this. I want this for my Cascade deck.
Yeah, I've seen people talking about putting it on artifacts that have the pay into it and then untap it feature.
Oh God, yeah, that's yeesh. There's some stuff you could do, I guess, because there's like Horseshoe Crab. If you make Horseshoe Crab an artifact, you can make infinite mana and then Cascade infinitely.
Yeah, I mean, you need blue to untap that though. Oh wait, this is any one color.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, so we might have. This could be a combo card. It's cool in like every aspect. Unlike the last deck for budget ads, there was like so much to choose from. The first one I go to all the time for these is Volcanic Torrent. It cascades and then it pings each creature you don't control equal to the number of spells you cast this turn, which is always 2+ whatever that number actually is, because this is a spell and it has Cascade.
You're going to want so many Cascades. You're going to put in Maelstrom Wanderer, and you're going to get 2 Cascades right off the bat.
Yeah, it's going to help this deck win the game, too. It's like a gigantic creature that does haste and just throwing stuff around. And Modi is very similar. When you cast your big spells, they Cascade, and she Cascades, and it just works out. Everybody's happy.
See the Truth is another good one, because when you Cascade into it, you're going to just put the top 3 cards into your hand.
Yeah, it works with like all the Doctor stuff. If you're suspending it, or if you're like flipping into it, or if you cast it for free somehow, not from your hand, you just get to draw 3. It's a nice little budget version of like Ancestral Vision.
Shardless Agent is a great one too, because you're just going to put it's a 3 mana Cascade, and you're just going to keep getting those triggers.
It's just filler that replaces itself. It's like a 2-for-1 if you build your deck right. Let's go to 5 non-budget ads. Delayed Blast Fireball is what I'm thinking. When Yasmin's exiling all those cards, you should just, Delayed Blast Fireball. Interesting. Wipe the board one-sided? Heck yeah.
Delayed Blast Fireball is always so much better than you think, honestly.
It really is.
It's one-sided.
Let's go to Apex Devastator. Just get 4 Cascade triggers. It's a 10-10. Just cause absolute chaos. You're going to be like putting counters on things and like casting things, getting triggers, and just getting all this stuff. It doesn't look like it can win the game, but it really can.
Keeper of Secrets is going to be another great one. You're going to be cascading and exiling a bunch of stuff, and you're just going to be dealing damage equal to the mana value to target opponents, and that's going to be a lot of damage in the long run.
Nice to have a couple of these effects to actually end the game. Obviously, we mentioned Passionate Archaeologist. That can go right in here too. You have 2 commanders, so it's twice as effective, just like the other deck. I didn't want to double dip though, but keep that in mind. And then Rishkar's Expertise is cool because the 13th Doctor is going to be putting counters wherever you want them. So if you have a big creature, or you just build your own big creature by casting all these suspend cards, you get to draw a ton of cards and then cast another spell for free, and just maybe it has Cascade. You just start the chain all over.
Jessica's Will is really great too, because you're bare minimum you're going to be exiling the top 3, but also if you have one of your 2 commanders out, you're going to be getting a ton of mana.
And you have 2 commanders, so it's really easy to have one of your commanders out. Jessica's Will, kind of staply, but it's super good for this deck. But no Precon is safe from the, why is this here? Cut cards, like Thajarian Witness. It's not the best effect. This deck doesn't care if we're attacking or blocking alone. I'm not sure what to do with this, but I know that it doesn't go in this deck.
Yeah, this seems like a samurai type effect, and it was just very confusing to see that it was in it.
Yeah. Start the TARDIS. Planeswalking, if that's relevant for you, this card seems to like rise in the ranks, but if not, it's 2 mana for a cantrip.
Madame Vastra and Jenny Flint are 2 partners that just don't do a lot for this deck. You're going to be putting counters on things, you're going to be making tokens, but it's not the most synergistic with the Cascade and casting from exile plan.
Maybe these 2 are supposed to go closer with the Thajarian Witness, and that's like another deck you can build because it's also Teamer. That could be cool, just not for this deck. Become the Pilot is the last one, and it like gains control of a creature. The stats just aren't that great, and it feels like it blends into me with the slew of 5 to 7 mana mind controls that no one plays.
You can't even hit commanders with this too, and that's really bad. You want to trap commanders, and if for 5 mana, I'm not taking this one.
I can turn their commander into a Cyberman, but I can't steal it? Why not?
Rough.
So overall, I think these are really cool precons with tons of new cards. Very similar to the Warhammer style. If you want to buy these and scrap them for parts, that could be cool. But a couple of the top ones make for functional decks. Again, the worst one, Masters of Evil. Then we got Blast from the Past. Then we got Timey-Wimey. And then we have the best one, Paradox Power, which seems really cool. And it's like one of the cheapest ones.
But if you want to see more precon reviews, we actually have one from Wilds of Eldraine right about here.
You can check them out.